Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Removing the Shackles. I almost said the Unfuck It discussion. That would have been funny. Removing the Shackles, we are back for another Herbs, Health, and History. And I have the lovely Anne Callaghan with us again, my partner in crime. And joining us tonight is Dr. Cori Stern. And I'm really excited. In full transparency, we have prepared absolutely nothing, not even a topic to talk about, because we're going to wing it tonight. We have, all of us have so much that we want to discuss. Cori, thanks for joining us.
It's my absolute pleasure. There's nothing I like doing more than talking about health.
Health, all the good stuff. Well, let's dive in. You and I kind of mentioned this last week during our emails back and forth. I would like to discuss or open this conversation with a discussion on nutrition and health. And there's a lot of things that people don't comprehend about nutrition. And I mean, it's been so corrupted. It's so thoroughly corrupted by the media and doctors in the medical profession who, in all reality, know absolutely nothing about nutrition for the most part. Adequate nutrition is, in my opinion, one of our foundational building stones to being healthy, keeping ourselves healthy at all times. So one of the things that we see all the time that drives me a little bit nuts is the fad diets. When we have a diet, and I shouldn't say fad because that's not actually a fair terminology. We see a lot of diets get pushed, and people are all like, when someone finds something that works for them, then it's like, everyone must do this. You must eat this way. You must eat it like, eat it for this. So I want to open the floor and talk about diet and diets in general.
Well, I always like to start off with explaining the function of food in the body, because this is not something you learn in school. And at least as far as how I was raised on processed products. I didn't ever actually eat food. So I did not know that I wasn't eating food. And I was sick most of my life until I figured it out on my own. So here's how I like to explain it to people. Your body is made out of cells. Every part of you is made out of cells. Most people know they have brain cells. Their brain cells, because of brain cells have gotten more attention than other cells in the body. But, every organ, everything that you're made of contains cells. And your cells are constantly dying. But the reason that you're not dead is because you are growing new ones. Every second of your life, your cells are dying, you're growing new ones. But people don't really think about what is the material that the body uses to grow the cells. Mm-hmm. And that is food, nutrition. So your body is literally made out of food. That saying that you are what you eat is actually accurate. So when you're eating correct food, you're going to grow healthy cells and all of your systems will work properly. If you eat crappy food, you're going to grow crappy cells, and then one or more things are going to go wrong, and then you're not going to feel well. You're going to have symptoms. So I don't even discuss health issues in terms of diagnoses. I think that's, a conventional medical bullshit thing. I think of health issues in terms of what's going wrong in the body that's creating this symptom. So what needs to get fixed exactly? Or in other words, the root cause. So my definition of food is anything that grows on the ground, grows on a tree, or has a mother, and is minimally processed. And by minimal process, we're talking about things like cooking, gentle cooking,
Yep.
sprouting, fermenting. Those are minimal processes. Anything else, you're turning something that was food into what we call a processed product. And processed products cannot provide the body with the material, the raw material that it needs to grow healthy cells. All processed products contain chemicals. They contain bad salt. I could talk about salt just like a whole video. Well, I actually did a whole video just on salt because there's so much misinformation about it. So bad sugar, bad salt, lots of chemicals, and the food is altered to the point that it's not functional anymore.
It's not food.
It's not food. Yeah, I don't call it food. I call it a processed product. So I did a post recently about Kraft cheese. I don't know if they sell that outside of the States, but
they do in Canada. I grew up on the stuff, so yeah.
American cheese. So it's not actually cheese. It's a processed cheese food product. And it was recalled recently because they accidentally got some of the plastic wrap into the slices of the processed cheese food product.
Would it really make a difference?
People were choking on it. I know. Well, people were choking on it, but I'm like, okay, it serves you right if you're buying and eating that crap. You should choke on it. So anyway, so that's the foundation. That's my starting point. So if you're not eating actual food, you can't be healthy. So then, to your point about diets and fads and all that, for people in this group, right? We see ourselves as not being part of the collective. We don't follow trends. We don't believe everything we read, except that some of us still do. And when it comes to health, people have developed some very rigid ideas that they get very attached to. And I want to use the example of water, because water is something that's part of planet Earth, whether it's part of the simulation, whatever, however you see it, it's something that
it's part of it.
Right, it's part of it, and your body can't survive without it. Your body is, about 75% water. And the way that water is created, the way that it is in nature, is very specific. Specific pH, specific motion of the cells of the water molecules. So now, all of us that are not drinking our water out of a moving mountain spring are drinking artificial water, basically. So whether it's coming from a reservoir that ends up coming out of your faucet, or you're drinking it out of a bottle and you don't really know where it came from, or you're putting it through a machine that makes it alkaline, or you're distilling it, or you're reverse osmosing it, it's no longer part of nature. It's not actually biologically compatible. But people get so passionate about, this is the right kind of water, this is the best water. And most of what people think about it is totally incorrect. The water filters that people use suck. They don't work. They don't actually filter. So I've learned a lot about this just by necessity. And basically, reverse osmosis, distillation, takes the minerals out of the water. And it actually takes the minerals out of your body if you continuously drink it. Alkaline water, it depends on the pH. It shouldn't be a different pH than what's in nature.
Yeah.
Your body should be alkaline, but only to a degree. Your stomach has to be acidic. If your stomach is not acidic, you can't digest
your food. Nope.
Right. So constantly drinking alkaline water at, a really high pH is not necessarily a good idea. People become acidic when they eat crap. So the solution is not to drink alkaline water. The solution is to not eat crap, to eat real food. So now getting back to food, so fad diets are weird to me, right? Because again, it's not part of nature. What does biology dictate that humans eat? And what are humans made out of that they have to give their bodies the replacement parts to? So this has been so aberrated, so completely, like you were saying in the beginning, by the media. I mean, that's where most people get their information about food and nutrition. Think about it. I mean, anything that you've ever learned about food, where did you learn it? Who did you learn it from? And how do you know if they were correct? So what I like to do,
Never-ending search. Like that is, it is far too easy to decide that someone is right and then just follow that person without doing it. And it's hard. I get it. For a lot of people, if you haven't studied biology, going in and starting to do that kind of reading can be a little bit daunting because you may not have the knowledge base to be able to tell good information from bad information. But it's important that we can't just listen to one guru, and we have to look around. And what works for one person,
yourself, actually.
yes.
And this is one of the problems, is that we force children to eat things. Very often we force children to eat things that they actually don't want to eat. And so the child's natural knowing of what they need and what they want and what they're craving is kind of done away with. So by the time they get to be a little bit older, they don't know, they don't have that craving is not obvious, and it's not allowed, it's not permitted.
Yep.
A lot of parents will not allow the child to say, well, actually, no, I don't want that cheese, or I don't want that, whatever.
it's
really important that it starts from the very beginning, that the child stays in contact with their appestat is allowed to operate, and they know how much they need to eat and what they need to eat.
Yes.
I interviewed a woman who created this system for doing that with animals. She called it zoopharmacognosy.
Oh yes, of course, I know
Yes.
it well.
Wonderful. Yes. So I was fascinated by this because I do this with my dogs. When I want to solve a health issue with my dogs, or figure out what they need nutritionally, since they don't technically speak to me with words, although they do communicate with me, but when I want to be really specific, I present them with different choices and I watch carefully to see what their responses are. And she does this, I'm trying to remember her name. Anyway, she's on my YouTube. I interviewed her, but she does this with essential oils. She puts essential oils near animals, and she actually cures all kinds of behavior issues, health issues with essential oils. But she allows self-selection. So she allows the animals to choose. But when I interviewed her, she told me that she was starting to do this with humans now too. So because children are forced to eat things that they don't necessarily want, and because so many people are eating processed food, processed products with chemicals in them, the chemicals actually alter your taste buds. So then real food doesn't actually taste good anymore. So the way to solve that problem is to, first of all, stop eating the processed food. You have to detox from it. You have to clean out all that garbage from your body, allow your taste buds to grow back, and then present yourself with different foods. And I have people do this. I have them keep a journal of how they feel. So just because you think something is good for you, you're choosing something that you believe is healthy, it doesn't mean that it's good for you. So my favorite example is a patient who had what looked like a pristine diet. She was only eating, grass-fed, pasture-raised animal and organic vegetables and fruits. And she had this horrible rash around her mouth, a painful rash that would not resolve no matter what we did. And with the journaling, the symptom food journal, we were able to easily see that it was asparagus that she must have been having some kind of reaction to, and she eliminated that and rash went away. So this is what I was getting at, is that there is no one right diet for anyone.
It's all individual.
Right. And all bodies need specific nutrients. All bodies need the macronutrients, protein, fat, and carbs, and all bodies need all the vitamins and all the minerals, because that's what you're made out of. But how you get all those things might be very different than how I get all those things.
Mm-hmm.
We're not cookie cutters. We didn't get stamped out of our mother's stomach with a gingerbread man cookie cutter. So when people claim these things about diet, like everyone should have this diet, insert name of Danny's most hated diet here.
Vegan.
Everyone, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. And literally become militant.
Yeah.
Militant about it. Like turn into the most, and it goes on both sides. Like I've seen people who are on the carnivore diet do the exact same thing. You must. And it's like, we are not cookie cutters.
Yes.
This is one of the reasons why when we look at cures, why some person can cure the same type of cancer with black seed oil and apricot kernels, and another person with the exact same type of cancer can do that and it doesn't work for them. And they have to go to baking soda, or they have to go, because we're all different. So to claim that there's a one size fits all diet that will fix everybody, it's just not true.
Well, it's first of all, I just want to say that plant-based is a psyop. So that's one of the things that's being pushed on us to keep us sick, weak, and stupid. Because your human bodies are not designed to live on plant alone. So, and plants do have some bad stuff in them and some good stuff in them. But I was going to say also, to your point about not all cures are the same for each person. It's so true, because, I mean, besides genetics affecting what you will respond to, each individual has their own specific deficiencies and imbalances that cannot be corrected the same way for everybody.
And environmental factors too. Like, I mean, you grew up next to a nuclear power plant, or a coal mine, or these are all factors in your health.
And that's only on the physical level. Then you have mental, emotional stuff
mental
as well.
and emotional and spiritual. So so I actually have seen where I'm located. I'm in New York City. So where my clinic is, I get people from all over the world coming in as patients, because people from all over the world live here. And I get to actually see how different groups, where, different locations that they grew up in, how they heal. And I can see some similarities, for example, for some reason. And I've been, kind of figuring out what's happening, but for some reason, specifically women from South and Central America and the Caribbean are the fastest healers I've ever seen. You just blink your eye and whatever was wrong went away. I noticed trends like men from Eastern Europe and Russia, when they come to the US, they get severe seasonal allergies. I mean, I'm generalizing, but I just, over the years, these are things that I see. So you can clearly see, and so many of my patients who grew up, speaking of nuclear power plants, near where the one in 1986 that blew up in Russia, Chernobyl, and they're all getting like weird thyroid stuff and different cancers now. 37 years later. So, yeah. So when people ask me a lot, like I get a lot of people reaching out to me asking questions like, here's a recent one. My son was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and we did a parasite cleanse, and it really helped him, but he has residual swelling in his lips. What supplement should he take? How the fuck should I know?
I get emails like that all the time too, and I'm like, okay.
But that's how people think. So we're trained to look for the pill that will fix the symptom. And
Yes.
one of the things that I really want to try to impress upon the world, but especially, our group, is to stop thinking like that. We have to think in terms of what the underlying cause is. Why does this poor boy have a swollen lip? What imbalance does he have? What deficiency does he have? And what do we need to do to correct it? And it's not going to be a quick fix, because we've been trained by Rockefeller medicine to think about, you don't feel good,
Here's a
take this
headache. You have
into
a
your
headache.
body,
Take this
and it's
pill. Now
gone.
your headache
Right.
is gone. You have a
Right.
sore throat. Suck on this lozenge, and now your sore throat is gone.
That's what
It's
we
not.
call in homeopathy, we call that suppression. Because
Right.
orthodox medicine has been developed to stop something happening rather
Correct.
than cure it.
Right. So
stops.
drugs.
It's like taking, the warning lights on your car. When the light goes on, orthodox medicine just takes the
Takes the
bulb
light bulb out.
Exactly. So pharmaceuticals only suppress symptoms and cause unwanted side effects in
A
the body.
cavalcade of side
Right.
effects.
Right. So that's not something I do. I might use something natural to manage a symptom until the underlying cause is fully corrected. So if you're in severe pain, you have, let's say you have inflammatory arthritis and you're in severe pain, I might give you some boswellia to reduce the inflammation, and the boswellia is going to be good for you. It's anti-carcinogenic. It's not going to harm you, while I'm figuring out why your body is so inflamed and fixing the underlying cause.
Yeah. Well, I get messages, probably nowhere near as often as you do, but I get quite a few messages with people who will say, I have insert name of something here. Like you say, irritable bowel syndrome. I have something like that. And they'll say, what do you recommend to take? It's like, okay, so like irritable bowel is not a disease.
Right.
It's a symptom.
Right.
So you can do things like, we can adjust your diet and say, okay, look, you want to take these things out of your diet. That might help. But that is just helping to ease the symptoms until you discover what is the cause of it. And then people get daunted, because we have been so entrained and so programmed of, here's an antibiotic, here's a painkiller, here's a statin drug. Take this and go away. And then you have the problem of the people don't ever address, they don't even comprehend that they have a dietary problem. Like, I had one person who had IBS, and I have it myself. Occasionally it flares up on me. And I know mine's totally diet related. Like, I know what my triggers are. And I went through, and this person was like, lived in downtown Detroit and would used to go to the vendors and get a hot dog off the street vendors, like the sausages, not the hot dog, but like a sausage off the street vendors. And then would literally within a half an hour be on the toilet. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, you've just like you yourself have just told me this is happening. So why are you still eating them? They were like, oh, well, I really like them. They're like my favorite lunch. I'm like, okay, maybe we need to ask ourselves why you feel like you're going to continuously eat this thing that you like the flavor of, that is causing you this much damage, and that you're willing to continue. Like, what is the element that's going on here?
Yeah, well, so I was seeing in the chat while you were talking about that, the emotional component
I was
to
just going to go there too.
physical. Yeah. So I'm going to give you an example that of a patient that I was talking to about this yesterday. She is very overweight. She doesn't have that many physical issues, just kind of, she had some low energy and a little brain fog, but she's really overweight and she's disgusted with herself. She wants to lose weight. And so she's been on a program with me for a while, and we're very, when I do a program with someone, I'm very specific with food. We hold their hand, we walk them through it, we make small changes over time. So we've been doing that with her. And over a 16-week period, maybe a little more, she only lost 5 pounds. So yesterday I had to have a chat with her about it. And she said, well, I think what's happening is that when at the end of the day, when I'm done with work and kids are in bed, I smoke weed and then to relax, and then I get the munchies.
Munchies.
Right. So I said, okay, so why do you need weed to relax? Like, what's happening in your universe that you need that? And she said, well, I'm not really happy in my marriage, and I hate my job. It's a toxic environment, and one of her kids is a little difficult to deal with, because she's a patient of mine too. She's much better, but the child was very very intelligent and had behavior issues, so bad combination. And so we ended up having to really get into what could she do to make her life better while she was still in this situation. She's looking for a new job. She doesn't want to look for a new husband. Let's find your starting point. Accept where you're at right now. You're in an unhappy marriage, but you're not planning to leave. What can you do to feel happy in that situation? Because you're never going to be able to make the changes you want to make until you get to that point. And then I said to her, and maybe you're not ready even to do that yet. Maybe you're not ready to find a way to be happy. So maybe
you have to make the choice.
Exactly. Maybe you should stop focusing on losing weight for now until you're ready. So, I have to have these conversations every day with people.
Yeah. In homeopathy, that's what we would call a maintaining cause. So there's a maintaining cause, and the person has to come to, we've talked about this lots of times before, we're there, we hold the space, we have the tools, and then when the person is ready, they'll make the step, they'll take the there's something I want to ask you, Cori. Now, I've been thinking about the frequency disturbances that we are all dealing with. And I think you brought up something like a little bit along those lines when we had the chat with Jason before. So it seems to me we're in a frequency war, right? We've got cosmic stuff incoming, and then we've got the soup that we're living in, the EMF, the et cetera, et cetera. And so our energy bodies are just constantly having to adapt to try and maintain homeostasis. So and I've been thinking about, the exhaustion that so many people are reporting at the moment. It's just like, oh, I'm so tired. And people seem to be so tired just getting through the day. And I've been thinking a lot about this, the frequency war, this, how actually it ties into the use of, or how useful the medicinal cannabis is, because the endocannabinoid system is being worn out by constant adaptation. So what do you suggest for that?
So, and I just want to mention too that echinacea also binds to the endocannabinoid receptors.
Yeah, there are a lot of phyto.
Yeah.
Dark chocolate does.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So eat
Very
chocolate,
tiny.
take echinacea,
Yeah.
and do some medicinal marijuana. So I do take echinacea every day. I take a lot of adaptogen herbs
Right.
this is, and I find that more and more of my patients are needing adaptogens
Yeah,
to
yeah.
help. So an adaptogen, for anybody that doesn't
I was just
know,
going to ask you if you could define that for everyone,
yeah,
please.
yeah, is an herb that literally helps your body adapt to changing and stressful conditions. And when your body can adapt, it helps you mentally to be able to handle stress better. So actually, let's start even before that, because when you have mineral deficiencies, it makes it more difficult for you to respond adequately to stress, and whatever that stress is, whether it's frequency stress or emotional stress or physical stress. So minerals is something that most people don't think a lot about. Like, people know that you need minerals in your body, and you can name some minerals.
And
When
now
I
our food is so demineralized because the
yes,
soil is
The
demineralized.
soil is so
correct.
demineralized.
Right,
Exactly.
right. And the soil is demineralized with commercial farming and with
Yep.
artificial fertilizer. So when I talk about minerals, I always ask people, do you, all right, first name some minerals. So most people will say calcium, magnesium, zinc. Some people will say potassium, iron. Okay. But there's a whole long list of minerals that the body needs, including sodium. This is why I was mentioning
Ah,
salt
yes,
earlier.
yes. Oh, thank you. Yes.
Right. So,
The anti-salt shit is just crazy. Crazy. It's another one of those fad things. Oh no, salt is bad for you. No, if you don't have salt, you're going to die. So back off and take good salt. That's all.
right. Right. So, yeah. So, good salt. I have some right here because
Mm-hmm.
it was just happened to be sitting next to me. I actually have all of my patients take salt, either take it on the tip of their tongue daily or put a little bit in their water. If it's good salt, it does not elevate your blood pressure. The opposite, salt deficiency, can cause high blood pressure. So you need to stay away from processed foods with crappy salt. So the table salt that you buy in the supermarket is processed
Worst of
salt.
the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not the salt we're talking about. But
No.
okay, so you need a whole list of minerals going into your body on a regular basis, including salt. If you are mineral deficient, any of those minerals, there's some in particular that make things worse, but if you're mineral deficient, it's going to be much more difficult for your body to withstand any kind of stress. Minerals are, I call them the keys that turn the processes on in the body. So just as an example, you can't make thyroid hormone without iodine.
Yep.
So if you're iodine deficient, you're going to probably be exhausted, because that's the symptom of low thyroid function. The pituitary gland needs manganese, which is a trace mineral. Your immune system needs calcium. Most people don't know that. I just did a video about this. So
Calcium is hugely important for all of
yes,
our health. Like, because I make skincare, I have people all the time who talk about my skin isn't really very nice or my nails. And I'm like, okay, like, let's talk about minerals, because the first place you see all that is in your hair, in your nails, in your skin, is when you see those deficiencies.
yes, correct. And so if for no other reason, I can get people to start taking them just for cosmetic purposes. But yeah, so calcium is the most abundant mineral in your body. Most people think it's just for your bones. Your bones are actually made out of collagen, and calcium, magnesium, phosphate are what make the bones hard. But calcium plays an important role in immune health. So this is what people don't know. And when people talk about taking minerals for their immune system, or vitamins and minerals, they'll talk about vitamin C and zinc and vitamin D, but nobody ever talks about calcium. If you have enough calcium in your tissue, you will not need to get a fever. The purpose of a fever is to make your body an inhospitable environment for the pathogens. But if you have enough calcium there, the calcium does the job that the fever
It's
does.
needed.
You don't get a fever. So it actually reduces body temperature. It's good for hot flashes, even for epileptic seizures. So the point of this, to answer your question, Anne, which was the long way around, is that the first thing that I do is make sure that people are not mineral deficient.
Yeah.
And
Cori,
and then
could I
go
just
ahead.
ask you, do you test, like, do you use kinesiology testing or you
Yes.
test like that to see if there is a
Yes.
deficiency, unless
Yes.
it's obvious? Yeah.
I do kinesiology with patients that are, present, that are physically with me, and then I do remote energy testing for virtual patients. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. And why? There's actually really no blood test, even functional medicine, that can really tell you what deficiencies you have. When you get
Because
blood
we're
work,
not cookie cutter people. So
right,
some people,
exactly.
there's like, this isn't the normal level. Well, that's great. It's the normal level for everyone else, but that's not, my body requires way more. So, or way less sometimes.
Yeah, and so many people end up getting diagnosed with disease because their level doesn't fall within the normal range, and they get put on pharmaceuticals for no reason. I see that all the time. So, not really a fan of blood work. I mean, I'll look at it as a reference point, but I'm not gonna really necessarily change too much. There's some exceptions. People that have iron deficiency anemia, like genetic conditions. Where I want to make sure that we're giving them quite enough of the iron. But it's also intricate, because, just for example, you can't absorb iron without vitamin C.
Yep.
So these are some things that a lot of people don't know. Just taking iron alone is not going to correct anemia.
And the problem is cheap iron. Like
Right.
your Flintstone vitamins.
Right.
I hate to say it, 99% of prenatal vitamins, the
Right.
iron in them is quite literally iron.
Metal. Right.
You
It's
can't,
metal.
and your body, it doesn't matter how many of those pills you take, your body can't absorb it. But they can
Same.
call it iron because it quite literally is iron.
The same thing with calcium.
Yep.
The most calcium in vitamins is calcium carbonate, and you cannot absorb the carbonate ion. So calcium, when you take calcium, it needs to get converted to calcium bicarbonate in order for it to work in the body. And calcium carbonate doesn't convert to bicarbonate very well. So let's say you take 1,000 milligrams of calcium carbonate, you're going to end up with 5% of that, which is 50 milligrams of calcium bicarbonate.
Yep.
So you're not really taking 1,000 milligrams. So when you have these deficiencies, so minerals and then also fat, that's another big problem, that people have a lot of confusion about fat. Your brain is mostly fat. Every single cell in your body has a fat cover on it, a phospholipid cover. If you're deficient in minerals and fat specifically, you're going to have a much harder time dealing with any kind of stress, including frequency stress. So and most people are deficient in minerals and fats.
And it's another thing we haven't, you first of all, you had the call out of butter's bad for you. But here, have this margarine, which is only one molecule away from plastic. Oh, milk is bad for you. Let's give you soy instead, which is full of the highest levels of phytoestrogens on the known universe.
Right.
This is, now they're attacking seed oils. Now there's this big attack on seed oils. Seed oils are evil. I'm like, no, they're not. I mean, let's face it. Okay, if you're talking soybeans oil, yes, it's evil. If it's genetically modified corn, yes, it's bad. But we can watch when we see them coming out and attacking things that we intrinsically know are healthy for you. Healthy. We know that good quality coconut oil, black seed oil, argan oil. All of these things are actually feed your cells, literally feeds your cells. But then they come out and they go, seed oils are bad. Don't do that. No.
Some seeds are bad, some seed oils are bad, but a lot of it depends on how they're actually manufactured. That's
And,
you know
and
one of the
that's what I wanted to add in. Like it's got to
yeah,
be cold pressed. You don't want it heat extracted. Any
right.
of the mass produced stuff, even olive oil, a lot of it's
Yes.
being mass produced with heat and
Yes.
chemicals.
Yes, and canola oil is rapeseed. It's not actually
Oh,
good for you.
oh
Yeah.
no, there's nothing about that that's good for you.
Yeah. Right. So so yes, with butter. Butter is one of my favorite topics because first of all, I just love it, and I
Yep.
also like the word butter. I just like to say butter, so I say it a lot. So I eat raw dairy and I eat raw
Same with
butter,
us.
and raw butter has some nutrients in it that it's like very rich in specific nutrients that most people are deficient in. Raw butter and organ meats like liver, and that is vitamin F. And most people have never heard of vitamin F. So I'm sure some people have heard of it, but most people haven't heard of it. And vitamin F actually protects your skin from getting skin cancer. So when you get a sunburn, and your face is, let's say your face or wherever you get the burn, your skin is red, that is an excess of vitamin D in your skin. And if it stays there, it will cause damage. But if you have adequate levels of vitamin F in your body, the vitamin F will transport the D out of your skin and into your cells. So the
Hmm.
sun won't cause a burn. So this whole bullshit with you need sunscreen to prevent skin cancer, you need toxic chemicals to prevent cancer is stupid.
And block vitamin D and
Right, exactly. Block vitamin D so you get sick more easily. And vitamin D is actually a hormone precursor. So,
yep.
so you become infertile. So the solution is just to eat vitamin F. It's also in flax oil. It's in raw cream, raw butter.
Yep.
So I have very fair skin. I don't know if you can see, and I have freckles. And I was in Florida a few weeks ago in the midday sun for 90 minutes with no sunscreen and didn't get a sunburn. So that's because I eat a lot of vitamin F. I use it as a supplement also.
Isn't that interesting, Cori? It's like there's a great book, and I can't remember the name of it, of course, but it has to do with ethnic diet. You know, with
Yes,
people who live in a particular place eat a particular thing,
yes,
and it's
yes,
good for them.
yes.
And it's people who in the northern climes we have. I mean, I'm here in Ireland. I'm freckly and fair skinned as well, and in the northern climes we would have naturally we have dairy. It's all over the north. And then if you
Yes.
go down to the more melanated areas of the planet, people don't have, or they don't, dairy is not such a big part of their diet.
Yes, well, in some areas of Africa, they subsist primarily on yak milk, which is
Yeah.
very, very high in fat. I don't know if has anybody ever heard of the book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, Weston A. Price?
Yes, I have a copy of it in my library.
It's an
I haven't
amazing
read
book.
it in I scanned through that like probably 15 years ago.
I highly recommend it. And if you don't like to read, you can just look at the photos. There's tons of photos in there. So Weston A. Price was a dentist in the 30s. And he, like some other of his colleagues, was noticing that people's teeth, children's teeth, were getting crooked, and their palates were becoming more narrow, and their jaws were getting smaller. And he wanted to understand what was happening. And to cut to the chase, he ended up traveling around all over the world and studying a lot of indigenous tribal peoples and looking at their diets carefully and taking photos of their mouths, and he discovered that what was causing the change in the skeletal structure of people was processed products, the crap that they were adding, and that when margarine was invented, you know, I know the whole history behind.
And when things like the whole thing of like Crisco, and all of these things, but then the homogenization of milk, I think that was one of the biggest pieces. And of course, that milk has been villainized as well.
Yes.
We drink only raw milk in our house. And I tell people, my unfuckers know, I'm like, literally, if you've never had a glass of raw milk, it will blow your socks off. Like, because your body, everyone I've spoken to, I was joking with Maury about this in the chat last session, saying it's like the first drink, it's like your body goes, oh, thank you. Like your body literally goes, oh my God, give me more of that, because it's pure nutrition. And yet we have the mainstream going, milk is bad for you, milk is bad for you, milk is bad for you. And then people believe it.
Well, yeah, and pasteurized milk is bad for you.
Is bad for you.
So I agree with that part. But yeah, most people don't know how much raw dairy contains all the probiotics that you need in your body, and all of the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and vitamin F that most people don't know about. So anyway, getting back to the question, I haven't forgotten your question, Anne. So once we are able to correct some of these deficiencies that many, many people have, you know, with minerals and fats and things like that, and maybe even not having all the amino acids in their body, right? So proteins are made out of amino acids. Most people are eating muscle meat rather than organ meat. Organ meat is much richer in glycine than muscle meat. So a lot of people are deficient in glycine. And it's, you know, just as important as an amino acid as all the rest of them. So collagen has glycine in it. That's one way to get it. Once we've corrected these deficiencies, some of the other, and put people on adaptogens like echinacea, like ashwagandha is a great adaptogen. The other thing that I do routinely is I get people onto pulsed electromagnetic field mats, you know, grounding mats as part of their daily routine. I actually sell handheld ones that people walk around with. You can just press a button and give yourself a little treatment anywhere, anytime. I have
Sorry, say that again, Cori. What?
A handheld PEMF device that you just push a button and you give yourself a little treatment. You carry it in your pocket with you.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Oh yeah, I have it on my website. And then of course, we have people use protection on all their devices. I try to get people to turn off their phones and whatever at night. And I actually have interviewed an expert on EMF on my show, and he has this whole like low cost way of protecting your bed, your house with different things. So at least when you're home, you're safe or safer. And then I have a sound healer in my office. So, you know, all of these things, you know, crystals and all these different things that we're trying to do.
Yeah, I know. I laugh.
Always surrounded by.
I rolled over in bed the other day and there was a terrible lump. What the heck is that? It's you know, it's either organite or shungite or something.
Yes.
I've got rocks everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one of the reasons that my patients from the Caribbean, specifically the Dominican Republic, heal so fast is they have a lot of these rocks there that are giving off that healing energy. Yeah.
Larimar comes from the Dominican Republic. It's a volcanic glass rather than a crystal. But yeah, interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. I'm just going to jump back for a second about the milk thing, right? And that is, I have a book in my library. I think there's actually a couple of them written in the early 1800s. And there were hospitals in the States and in
Yes.
England
Yes.
that literally you would be admitted to the hospital and there were
Raw
all
milk
people who were like
therapy.
incurable.
Yep.
And you were put in and you ate and drank nothing but milk, raw
Yeah.
milk
Yeah.
every hour,
Yes.
every hour. And the cures were amazing, like from people who were diagnosed with cancer, people who had the epileptics, literally. And that was all they got. They were literally nothing but raw milk to read. And that was the one doctor writing the book was like, you need to reset your body. You need to reset your body. And I went through a whole disaster, a whole thing about a year and a half ago with my guts, and I had ulcers and everything was a mess. And I was like, right, no more procrastinating. And I went stripped and I went down to raw milk, bone broth that I make myself, and 5, 6 days of that solidly. And the difference by day 2 of how I felt was amazing because I was to the point of my ulcers were so bad. I waking, sleeping, eating, not eating, it didn't matter. I was continuously in pain. And within 2 days of doing that, I was a new person. And I can tell everyone, I'm like, when you get to that state, literally bone broth, raw milk, and that's it. And
Yeah.
water.
But bone broth is really healing for the gut, but raw milk, I think maybe part of what healed you was the probiotics in it, which
I agree.
if you don't have raw dairy, you're not getting those probiotics. So the probiotics actually also come from the soil like minerals do,
Yeah.
and then the cows that are eating the grass are getting all of those little bugs into their body, and then you get the benefit of it by eating and drinking it. I think the Mayo Clinic, which is like, now it's this big, conventional medical hospital, was originally a raw milk therapy
Yep.
clinic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And I do things like I make clabbered milk. So I clabber my raw milk. And then I get the whey off of it. When I turn it into cream cheese, I take all the whey. I use I can't possibly use all the whey that I make. Literally, it gets kind of ridiculous. And like I put it out in my compost pile. And I had let some clabbered milk go a little long last week. Yeah. And a little bit too long. And Nick was like, should I dump it in the toilet? And I was like, nope, out to the compost heap. I said, that is so full of probiotics and all the amazing, and literally just went out and I sprinkle it all over my compost heap. Because you feed the compost, then the compost feeds the soil, which feeds the plants,
Which feeds you. Yes. So, so raw milk is interesting because it doesn't actually go bad or sour like pasteurized milk does. It becomes fermented, so it turns into buttermilk. Dawn was asking how long it stays good. I mean, I have raw goat milk here. That's what we drink. We drink goat and sheep. I do better on those than cow, and it lasts if I have it in a glass bottle and keep it nice and closed. It lasts for 2 weeks generally. If I'm getting it as soon as they milk the animal. So I don't always know. For anybody that's in the US, if you would like to find a small scale family farm that grows nutrient dense, clean food, there's a website, I can put it in the chat, that matches you to a farm that you can either go pick up your food or delivers it to you or will ship it to you. And I even have a link for people outside the US. It's from the Weston A. Price Foundation. So the guy that we just talked about, the dentist, there's a whole foundation that's dedicated to helping people find nutrient dense, clean food.
Yep.
So I put it on every video that I do. I put a link to those things on there, but I'll put the one for the US now because I just know it by heart.
I'm just laughing. Someone in the chat, Lisa, said, I used to use my breast milk when the babies had sticky eyes. I was pregnant and or breastfeeding for about 14 years. I have a lot of children. And the most crushing thing when my youngest weaned himself was I didn't have breast milk to cure everything. And I would literally, all my friends who were, because very much involved in the maternal and infant health avenues, if you will. So I literally could put calls out and be like, I need 4 ounces of breast milk. Anyone local? And they come in, and I just freeze it in ice cube trays. So I always had it. If someone got an eye infection, if someone got an ear infection, if someone got like so many different things, treating burns with it. Literally, breast milk cures everything, everything. And that's in a similar way, the same way I've liked the raw milk. And that's, I've got a friend of mine whose grandma was Polish or Hungarian. I think she was Polish. And she swore that the girls in her village, and they lived in a very much a dairy area, every morning would milk the cows. And as soon as they were done milking the cows, they would take their hands and they would rub it all over their face and their neck and their arms. And she said the women in our area of, we had the most beautiful skin. It was well known that any woman in this area would have the most beautiful skin. And that was it. They would milk the cows, and then whatever was on their hands from milking the cows, they would rub all over their face and their arms to give them that beautiful, shiny, healthy skin.
Well, I got news for you. Your skin needs probiotics too.
Yes,
So
it does.
it's not just your gut. Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to
So
wash my face with milk tonight.
I have something more pleasant to use. I actually have a soil-based probiotic spray that's specifically designed for skin, so you don't have to use
talk. We have to talk about that.
I have a lot of skin stuff. So I'm 60, by the way, and
well, you look fabulous.
Thank you, darling. That's what good nutrition will do for you. So, yeah. So, and did I adequately answer the question that you brought up?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Because we have been noticing, we've talked about it in Unfuckers actually, the teeth issues,
are a big one.
particularly that's been going on for a lot of people. And I had been wondering about how radiation was putting a drag on the uptake of minerals as well.
Yes. So especially iodine, radiation is really bad for your thyroid. And, when people are using their cell phone, their thyroid is right here. So you're irradiating it all the time. And one of the things that can protect you from that is iodine. So we're seeing an epidemic of thyroid, either hypothyroid, meaning your thyroid is low functioning, or hyperthyroid, meaning it's overfunctioning, and or this autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where your body is attacking its own thyroid. We're also seeing an epidemic of nodules growing on thyroid. I had a new patient this past week who, for the past 2 months, could not swallow his own saliva. And
that is one we're seeing a lot of. And I've had it myself twice in the last year and a half, where suddenly it's like you said, you try to take your vitamin C and you're like, can't get it down my throat.
Yes, the thyroid swelling up, or it has nodules on it. So this guy that couldn't swallow his saliva went to an ENT because he thought it was something wrong with his throat. And she said, it's acid reflux, take omeprazole, which is a proton pump inhibitor. It suppresses your stomach's ability to produce hydrochloric acid, which you need to be able to digest food. So he reached out to me. He actually found me through RKX, and he reached out to me, and I'm like, it's not acid reflux. How dumb is that? How did she even
how do you come up?
Yes, he just guessed. He has nodules on his thyroid, and so I'll be able to shrink them. So radiation is one of the things causing that, but also in the States they add something called bromide to bread. Bromide.
Yes.
Bromate, potassium bromate, and that
bromide in your bread. Oh my God.
Yep. So anything that ends in IDE or INE, chlorine, chloride, bromine, bromide, fluoride, All of that is really bad for the thyroid, because if you are iodine deficient, and many people are iodine deficient, your thyroid will just suck in anything that looks like a
Yep.
molecularly similar to
Yep.
iodine. Yeah, and then it damages your thyroid. So that is a big reason why thyroids are breaking down now, and they're pretty easy to fix. I have great success with being able to restore thyroid function.
We're
And
going
that
to
is
talk a little
mostly-
later, darling. I'll be sending you an email later on.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, sure.
And
My pleasure.
that would mostly be using diet.
I use diet, but I use supplements that are food based. So the supplements that I use are all made out of food and with very specific nutrients that are deficient in the body. So it's very difficult to correct deficiencies with food alone, because you have to eat too much of it.
Yeah.
So if you're eating food from a farm that grows nutrient dense food because they have good soil, you're giving yourself a good foundation. But if you're starting off with a deficiency, you're going to need supplements to correct the deficiency. And I do not like, or try to avoid as much as I can, synthetic supplements, because I like to use
Yes.
things that are biologically compatible and are actually what your body is made out of. So I use supplements that are made out of food. So for example, for the thyroid, I use a specific iodine that's made from kelp, and I use and none of this is high doses, because in nature high doses of vitamins and minerals do not exist. So
No.
your body can't utilize it. So we use doses that are found in, more like
Food
in
state.
nature,
Food state.
right?
dose.
Food state. Yeah. That makes so
Right.
much sense.
Yeah.
Right. And then specifically for the thyroid, we have a glandular that is just amazing. I've gotten so many people off their pharmaceutical synthetic thyroid hormone drug with the glandular.
Okay. Well, you have to make sure you send me your website again, because we're going to need to include it with this information. One of the things
put it
I
in
get
the chat.
contacted about all the time is thyroid and glandular issues in general. And I think that right now is what Anna was talking about, is between the solar radiation insanity that's going on, and cosmic radiation, between the frequency pollution, we'll call it, this, and all these levels of stuff. I think glandularly, everyone's struggling. I think it's one of our first things that we really notice is this. Oh my God, same thing. Like, I've got a bit of a sore throat, and I'm like, oh, so what's like, it's not a sick sore throat. It's my glands are working through something right now. What is it they need? And I'll finish this, and I'll probably go have a great big giant glass of raw milk, because that's about my go-to for a lot of times nowadays.
And don't forget the chemtrails. So I find that I can actually look up in the sky and predict what I'm going to see patients coming in with. I take photos of the sky and predict what I'm going to see next. Yep. So the chemicals that we're inhaling, and let's just talk about chemicals for a minute, because people are being
for just
exposed.
A minute. Are you sure we can do this in just a minute? I don't think so.
All right. I'll try to be succinct. People are being exposed to chemicals in ways that they are not aware of at all. So even if you're careful, right? Even if you're using clean, green cleaning supplies and organic cosmetics and, organic laundry detergent and all of that, and you're being really careful, buy a new pair of shoes. They have formaldehyde.
What you get in your jeans?
Right.
Your clothing, I really don't buy new jeans. I watched a show where a person who worked with the designer said, these are the chemicals that are put in denim. It takes 15, 20 washes to
Yes.
get this out. And I'm like, right,
Right.
man, jeans for me from now on.
Right, right. Well, I try to wear organic clothes when I can. It's not that easy. I have organic sheets and blankets and pillows and stuff, but even your freaking toilet paper is loaded with chemicals.
Yep.
So you can get chemical-free toilet paper. It has to say TF on it, toxin-free.
Yeah.
So I've been using that for a long time, but your parts down there are very delicate, and when you put toxins against your delicate tissue, your body
And
just
when you
sucks
talk
it right
about
up.
a balancing act, like when you talk about that balance of alkaline and acidity and bacterias, etc., that is for women.
Not good.
And
We
if
Right.
should all
when we
have
talk about
Japanese
maxi
loos,
pads,
Danny. Japanese loos. They wash and dry for you.
yep,
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah,
yep.
yeah. But bidets are the best way to go.
Oh,
And
by far.
again, toilet paper is not biologically normal. It's an invention of probably the bad guys that are trying to keep us sick. But when you have chemical toxicity in the body, chemical or metal or both, because I find that in so many people, it suppresses your immune system, and that's not something that people really think about. Your immune system responds to toxins the same way it responds to pathogens, but it can't necessarily get rid of metals the way it can. It can eat pathogens in your body. It can break down pathogens, but it can't break down metals. So when you're metal toxic, specifically metals, but chemicals are also hard to get rid of. But when you're metal toxic, your white blood cells try to engulf them, like your macrophages. Those are the blood cells that eat the bad guys and dissolve them. And when they engulf metal, they can't dissolve it. Your blood cells live for 3 months. So now that blood cell is traveling around your body with metal in it, and it's bringing it
overloaded. Yep.
it's bringing it to different organs. So metals get stuck in organs. We literally have to evaluate each organ to see if any of them are, have stuff like this stuck in them. And when it ends up in your brain, it can cause autism. It can cause dementia.
Alzheimer's and
Yep.
oh yes.
Yes,
Perfect for a reset, huh? Do away with everyone's memories.
that's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just wipe them
Let's
all
just
clean with. Well, that's
crank
what
them full of vaccines with aluminum in them.
Right.
See what happens.
They all have aluminum in them. So and so do antiperspirants, and so do a lot of people cook with aluminum. So you're just getting a shit ton of aluminum in your body if you're using any of those things. I'm hoping people listening know not to get a vaccine because of the aluminum, but I mean, that's like the worst part of the vaccine is the aluminum. Well, we won't talk about what.
We won't go quite into that.
Yeah.
Just
So,
because we are going to put this out on YouTube, so
oh, we are.
we won't talk about just this one section.
You're gonna have to bleep out that word that I said. Then I didn't
Yeah,
realize it was
we'll
going
figure
on
it. It's
YouTube.
okay.
Okay.
I'm
So
already demonetized, and YouTube has me completely shadow banned anyway. So
I have gotten a couple of videos pulled down because the word was said, just the word, the V word. So
yeah.
nothing, not making any claims, just said the word. So while we're on the subject of the brain, I do also want to give a shout out to cholesterol, because that's another whole psyop.
Yep.
High cholesterol is not a medical condition that needs to be treated. Cholesterol is in critical part of your brain function, and your hormones are made out of it.
Yep.
So all of this forcing people's cholesterol down is causing infertility, among other things. It's also demasculinizing men, and that's one of the things that's affecting men's hormones, testosterone.
Cori, here in England,
chronic. Yeah.
everything is fat free. Literally, when we got here to England, which we've been here since the beginning of the lockdowns, everything is fat free. You go into if you go into like the big chain grocery stores, you have better luck. If you go into the smaller grocery stores, you try and find a yogurt that is not fat free. You try and find anything that is not fat free. It's all fat free and sweetened with aspartame. No added sugar. No, every juice in the entire country of England has aspartame. Every candy has aspartame. Every gum has aspartame.
It's also in over-the-counter vitamins and over-the-counter medications like aspirin.
Cough syrups.
And it's a neurotoxin also.
Very much so.
Yeah, and people are not aware of it. It has a lot of different words that mean aspartame. Aspartame is just one of them.
Yep.
And also sucralose, which is
Yep.
Splenda.
And stevia, i.e. stevia with a capital S, i.e. the stevia with a small s is the plant. Stevia with the capital S is actually made by the same people who make aspartame.
Yeah.
And it is an artificial sweetener that they had copyrighted with the name stevia.
Yeah, and nobody knows about this.
No.
So good point. So so getting back to the brain, right? So cholesterol, your brain, you will get dementia if your cholesterol is too low. I had a patient. Before I say that, the most important thing about cholesterol is the quality of it, not the quantity. So if it's fluffy, it's good. If it's very sticky and dense, it's not as good. So all we have to do is improve the quality, and that usually has to do with the way you're eating. Don't eat inflammatory foods.
Don't eat processed foods.
Right. And then, I have a patient who had cholesterol is 250. She's in her late 60s. That's actually not that bad because we don't go by it has to be under 200 thing. So her medical doctor wanted to put her on a statin. She declined. I gave her some supplements that helped improve the quality of the cholesterol. It actually went all the way down to 169, which shocked me. But part of that was the way she was changing her food. And her medical doctor did not know that she didn't take the statin and said, oh, well, I guess the statin is working. Well, let's keep going. We want to get it down to 100. And I'm like, oh, hell no. You're going to have, total brain dysfunction. But that's what they're doing now. That's what they're doing. They're pushing and
average numbers just keep either going up or coming down, whichever works in their favor across the board in all things, whether we're talking about blood sugar was what now means to be diabetic. They've changed all those numbers. They've changed all the averages.
Yes.
The cholesterol thing, those averages have totally, blood pressure, same thing. Those things have all been changed.
Yes. If you stop eating cholesterol, and that's another thing, I think I'm going to do a video just on the topic of eggs. So I'm so tired of people telling me I don't eat eggs because there's too much cholesterol in them.
No.
Or I only eat the whites. And meanwhile, most of the nutrition is in the yolk. But if you stop eating cholesterol, your liver will just make more. So that's not a good idea. And your liver will make cholesterol in response to inflammation in your body. So it could even go up if you eat good quality cholesterol. So that means good quality animal. By the way, cholesterol is only in animal. Eggs.
Yes, like as in free range, grass, like grass-fed beef and these types of things. It's not the horrible things that you're buying on the supermarket shelf.
And the yolk contains fat and fat-soluble vitamins and biotin, which is really good for your hair.
Yep.
So when people start eating the whites instead of the yolks and their hair starts falling out and they're like, why is my hair falling out? Well, now you're biotin deficient.
Yep.
So yeah, I just had this conversation with a diabetic patient who I discovered was only eating the whites, and he was throwing the yolks out into his garden and giving it, I guess, I think he said to the birds. I don't know. I didn't know birds eat egg yolks. But anyway, especially for diabetics, when your blood sugar is too high, you need to eat fat and cholesterol. It slows down your absorption, your conversion of carbs to sugar. Fat slows down the conversion of carbs to glucose in your body. So the worst thing you can do is stop eating fat.
It's another one of those psyops, one of those wonderful psyops that just keep coming and coming and coming. I'm going to say we're going to call that it for the show, for our discussion. We're all going to hang around. We're going to take Cori, and we're all going to take some questions from anyone here in the audience. But for those in video land, this will be the end of the show. As a quick side note, there will be an Unfuck It discussion tomorrow night, I have decided. Also want to let everyone know that I will make sure the article that is going to go out with this video will have everyone's websites, Dr. Cori Stern's website, Anne's website, my website. They will all be in the video description or in the article linked in the video description. As a secondary side note, let everyone know that I've just released another library thumb drive. Oh, the woo. Oh, the woo. There's about 2,000 books on that, and that's available on RTS.Earth. I want to say thank you, Cori, for being with us tonight. I really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. But we'll be back. And I'm going to say goodnight to everyone out in Videoland.